welcome back once again to After the Credits. So, again, a more up-to-date movie, finally getting caught up on everything that I wanted to see. Today, we went and saw Bad Moms. What did I think of Bad Moms? It was fun. It was actually slightly better than I thought it was going to be. From the preview, it looked like it was going to be a fun movie. It actually ended up being quite a bit more funnier than I thought it would. Usually when I see something, I'm like, oh, that looks like it's going to be fun, it ends up being crap. This one actually lived up to that, plus a little bit. Is it an original film? No, not by any means. It's got a lot of tropes from a lot of stuff you've seen in the past, but at the same time, just the overall way things play out, it's just a fun ride. It is a bit more of a adult film, so if you're younger, you might not enjoy it quite as much, but then again, you might not be able to get in to see it because I think it is an R rating. But yeah, it's definitely humor that you will appreciate more as an adult than you would like as a teenager. You know, if you're a teenager who doesn't have kids, you must not live in America. No, just kidding. But yeah, if you're a teen and you don't have kids yet, you might not pick up on a lot of the subtle humor about what's going on in the situation. You might be like, this is dumb, this is an old people's film. You're right, it is. It basically reflects on my generation, the mid to late 30s, and how we are now the adults, and where did our life go, and now they have kids, and being a parent's hard, and they're doing their best to raise their kids the best they can, and no matter what they do, it's not right. It explores a lot of the problems with marriage, like, you know, when two parents work. It can seem to one another like you're the only one who really does anything while the other one just kind of doesn't do a whole lot, and how it can be frustrating, how it leads to a lot of divorce cases and things of that nature. And it's just a fun little exploration into adulthood for those of you who are now in that bracket. It is based on the mother's side, not necessarily downplaying the father's side, because they do have a positive father figure. Of course, the one downfall to that is he's not divorced, he's widowed, or a widower, I guess. The males are widowers when their wives die. So basically his wife has passed, he has a daughter who he's trying to raise on his own, whereas in a female-oriented movie, if the male is divorced, obviously there's something wrong with him, it's something that he had to have done to cause it, it wasn't the woman's fault, blah blah blah. So in order to have him be looked at positively by the female audience who's watching this, who is targeted towards, that male lead's wife has to have died rather than left him. Occasionally they do just have it be like, well, she just got up and left one day, but then it's still, yes, she walked out on him and abandoned him and the kid, but at the same time, why did she do it? It must be something wrong with him, blah, 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 blah. Because that's how Lifetime movies have programmed women to think that all men are the issue, instead of, you know, maybe sometimes it's just they couldn't work it out. They do explore that a little bit in this movie as well, especially with Mila Kunis' character, who has a husband in the start of the film, and they just kind of realize they've just been putting on this act of still loving each other. They haven't really loved each other in years, so they kind of split up. And at one point, they decide to go to counseling to see if they can work it out, and they just realize maybe it's better this way. You know, as much as we'd love to stay together for the sake of the kids and everything, it just wouldn't be right to do that to each other, to continue to make ourselves miserable, trying to stay in this loveless marriage. And, you know, it really delves a lot into that. Yes, it plays the guy up to be a bit of an asshole for the first half of it, but that is needed to set Mila Kunis on the path that she goes on to become the main protagonist of this movie. Of course, like I said, by the end they do kind of resolve things where he's not such a bad guy either. He was just kind of in the same boat she was, and she just happened to be the one who snapped before he did, well, to a degree. So, yeah, it plays with every little aspect of it. It doesn't weigh too heavily on one or the other, which I appreciate. What actually happens in this movie? Well, Mila Kunis is a working mother who, of course, she doesn't really have to work because she says her husband's fairly successful, but she does have a job that's only supposed to be part-time, 3 days a week, and she's basically there every day, basically running this company from behind the scenes, because it's a company run by millennials who somehow lucked into owning a business and don't know what they're doing. And like, it's kind of like, have you seen like The Intern? Not the internship where they work at Google, but The Intern with Robert De Niro, where he works for a online clothing company or something like that. That office environment that he's in, where everyone's kind of young and just kind of goofs off most of the day as opposed to actually being productive. It's kind of that environment, but now instead of Robert De Niro being almost 80 years old, you have Mila Kunis in her late 30s. And she even says at one point, like, most of the day the guys spend playing ping pong. So she's basically running this company from behind the scenes, and at the same time trying to balance everything with her kids, getting them up in the morning, getting them breakfast, getting them to school, going to work, coming back home from work, picking the kids up, taking them to after-school activities, going home, making dinner, going and picking the kids up, coming back home, and then still trying to have a relationship with her husband at the same time. And she's a member of the PTA and all this other stuff, and it eventually just wears on her. And it kind of comes to a head in the PTA meeting because she gets volunteered into something that she just really doesn't have the time to do, and it's all because her dog got sick and she had to take him to the vet, so she was slightly late getting to the PTA meeting. So like, well, that's what happens when you're late. And she's like, no, you know what? Fuck you. I'm not doing it. And they're like, what? And she's like, you know what? I've had enough of this crap. I worked my ass off, and I'm not going to come in here and be told what to do by you. And she kind of walks out of the PTA. So she goes home and finds out that her husband has somewhat been having an affair. Not really. He's met someone online, and he says he has feelings for her, but she lives like 2,000 miles away, so it's not like an official thing, and he doesn't feel that it's cheating, even though it is. So she kicks him out, and then she kind of goes to the bar just to vent a little bit and relax, have a couple drinks and blow off some steam. And she meets a couple other mothers who are kind of going through the same thing, not necessarily with the husband, but just kind of, it's rough being a mom and all the crap that you have to put up with. So they kind of bond and become the Bad Moms Club. And then they just kind of go out and, like, kind of have a girls' night, wreak some havoc, and, whatever they're going to do. And then some more stuff happens involving the PTA because Mila Kunis rebelled against the PTA president, who's played by Christina Applegate, who's just, like, playing that really bitchy character that she tends to play in a lot of movies and TV shows now, and I don't know why they keep sticking her with that role. But, yeah, so she's just being, like, this really bitchy, like, prima donna, I have to have my way on everything type of thing, and because Mila Kunis told her no, which no one's ever done, apparently, she now sets out to be at war with Mila Kunis. So Mila Kunis says, well, in order to get back at her, I'll run against her for PTA president. So she starts building up towards the election and kind of doing that stuff, and then she has the somewhat reconciliation with her husband where they agree to go to therapy and then kind of realize that it's just not going to work out. So then she kind of collapses into herself, and that kind of leads to more problems with her children, who just kind of start saying, you're being selfish and only thinking about partying with your friends and doing what you want to do, and you're not really thinking about us. Which, at that point, you just want to open up on the kid and be like, look, you little selfish motherfucker, I do everything for you, and you never once say thank you or nothing. All you do is give me shit. I take a little bit of time for myself, and you're going to fucking say that disrespectful shit to me. Yeah, it's like, honestly, the only time I've ever seen in any film a parent actually go off on the kid like that is got to be Kevin Smith's Jersey Girl, when the little girl in the movie, what's her name? Gertie. She can't get her way. Ben Affleck's character keeps telling her no to something, and she kind of throws this temper tantrum and kind of tells him that she hates him. Ben Affleck just turns around and launches into the little girl. He's like, I hate you too, you little shit. You're ruining my life. Just like latches into her. And it's something you never say to your children as a parent, but you always want to, especially when they get that attitude. Like, look, I gave up a lot of shit in my life when you were born. I give up a lot now to keep you happy and to keep giving you things, and you're going to treat me like that. Just watching it is like, oh my God, he actually said that to this little girl. And it's like, I'm sure every parent's thought it at some point when the kids have that attitude, like, look, I can go off on you, and I'm really biting my tongue not to. And in that movie, they did. And that was probably one of the best parts of that movie. That's probably why I love that movie, even though everyone says it stunk. It's actually a good movie that you appreciate more when you become a 30-something parent than you would as a 20-something pot-smoking college kid who's into Kevin Smith because he wrote these two stoner characters named Jay and Silent Bob. Aside from that, Mila Kunis' character starts having problems with her kids, and they're basically saying she's selfish, even though they've been selfish, spoiled brats through this whole movie, and she really should latch into them at that point. But she doesn't. Instead, they go stay with their dad for the weekend, and Mila Kunis kind of shuts down and retreats into herself and kind of has a girl moment where she just wants to sit and watch, sad movies and eat ice cream and not really pay attention to anything. And she kind of blows off the whole PTA election thing. And then her friends show up and they're like, what are you doing? It's time for the PTA election. And she's like, no, I'm not going to go through with it. She's hurt me enough, and, I'm just not going to put myself through it anymore. And then they're kind of like, it's not so much about what she's done to you as much as what she's done to other people and how it relates back to you and what's going on with your children. And, you need to stand up against her because if you don't, no one else will. She goes, you're right. She gets up off her ass. She goes to the election. And I'm not going to say how it ends other than there is a resolution to where you find out that Christine Applegate's character is this huge bitch because she's been having problems of her own with her kids and being a bad mom. And the PTA is the only thing that she really has to to keep herself occupied so she doesn't go crazy thinking about everything that's going on in her life. But at the same time, that craziness is what's been carrying over into her duties at the PTA. So there's amends making. Spoilers, by the way. Again, I didn't tell you the full ending, but other than that, they do kind of develop an understanding for each other towards the end and kind of stop being enemies. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Overall, like I said, the movie is better than I thought it was going to be. It's a fun movie, especially if you're more of an adult age, you're a parent, things like that. And you've been a parent for more than like a year, like 5-10 years. There's a lot in this movie that you can relate to and that is funny. If you're, like of the younger generation who maybe hasn't experienced all that yet, you'll probably think it's boring unless you're a female, because then you'll probably appreciate it because it is targeted towards a female audience. But overall, I enjoyed it too. A lot of the people in the theater laughed at a lot of the same points I did. A lot of the people in the theater were guys there with their wives or girlfriends. So the fact that they laughed, and not just because their girlfriend was sitting there next to them making them laugh or anything like that, tells you that the film did have its positive moments. So what would I give it as far as a star rating? Like I said, it's not 100% original. Like I said, that whole battle with the PTA presidency thing, something similar has been done in other movies like this where there's a rivalry, and once the rivalry is over, they kind of become friends. I think they did something similar even back in like Mr. Mom. It's like if you go back and watch all the way through those, there's always some type of, I'm fed up, so I kind of rebel. Then I kind of mellow out, and there's a resolution, type of thing. I'll even go back and watch Office Space. The whole first half of that movie is kind of the same premise, where a guy just kind of snaps one day and decides, fuck everything. I'm not going to work today, and, screw my TPS reports and all that type of stuff. And, I mean, it's a lot of similar tropes to what we've seen before, so it loses a little bit for that. But otherwise, it was still a fun movie. I still laughed quite a bit. And just overall, it was a good time for the hour and a half or whatever that it was. So overall, I'd give it a 3.5. If it wasn't for the fact of a lot of the tropes being things from other movies that I've seen 1,000 times before in similar films, I probably would have gave it a 4 just because, like I said, I did enjoy it. But because of that, it knocks down to a 3.5. So there you have it. That is my review of Bad Moms. Again, as always, thank you guys for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. The links to social networks are down in the description. And until next time, we will see you after the credits.